The latest is that both Iran and the U.S. are continuing to consider a memorandum of understanding which would possibly end the kinetic stage of the war and allow for a 30 to 60 day period of negotiations. It's the same thing we've been hearing for a while. I have my doubts, especially since Iran and the U.S. keep hitting each other and keep striking each other with drones and airstrikes. I'm Borzu Dergahi. This is my podcast. It's called Badlands. You can subscribe at borzu.substack.com. I'm also available on Spotify, on YouTube, and on Apple Podcasts. There's a really good show today, in addition to a little bit of talk about what's happening in Iran, which is getting a little bit repetitive. There's a little segment from my interview with NewsX about what is happening with the EU and its punishment of Israel, or at least Israeli settlers, for what they're doing. I explain what's going on in the West Bank, and then a little bit of talk about Gaza and what the Israelis are doing in Gaza. And then, so stay tuned, because I have today a long interview about Turkey with an expert on Turkey. I'll make some of that free. Some of that will be bonus content for paid subscribers. Tune in, because this will be a good episode covering a lot of ground. I really appreciate you listening in.
What do you think is still the sticking point?
I'm not even sure what the sticking points are. The Iranians have issued their version of what the memorandum of understanding looks like, and it's very different than what the Trump administration is saying through leaks that the memorandum of understanding looks like, which leads me to believe that there's really no negotiation going on at all, that both sides are pretending to go through the motions of being in a negotiation. It's a sort of pantomime so that when things collapse, they can each blame each other. And that's where we're at. There's a lot of hawks in Washington who want to resume the war. They're whispering in Trump's ear. They're going on social media. They're going on Fox News, yelling and screaming, demanding that the U.S. go back into war. Americans and everyone else in the world should probably know that there's a lot of Iranians who are saying those same exact things. They're calling the government a sellout for doing this negotiation. They're super eager to go back into the kinetic phase of the war. And it's a very dangerous situation. What Trump is doing is market manipulation, talk up the markets on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then let things fall apart on Fridays, make more dire threats against Iran, against Oman this time, threaten our Gulf allies, U.S. Gulf allies, Saudi Arabia and Qatar, demand that Pakistan and Turkey join in on the Abraham Accords, this absurd demand. The danger, and everyone in the world should know this and understand this, it's a danger of having a politics based on personality instead of process. And I think that is applicable to a lot of countries around the world.
Now, how significant is this, and the fact that these kind of things are highlighted or are shedding lights on a lot of human rights violation that's been going on for a while?
Well, I think it's a start. If you look at this matter closely, the EU has been trying to get some kind of action against the settlers, the most extremist settlers, for some time now. And it was only the ascension and the continued presence of Viktor Orban of Hungary as a member of the EU that blocked that step. Now that he's been ousted and Peter Magyar is Prime Minister of Hungary, he's gone along with this. It should be said, though, that there's two types of settlements in the West Bank. There's the normal kind of ongoing, huge, massive settlements, big, huge suburban style, urban style developments that are fully backed by the Israeli government and are the really damaging parts of the settlement process, really tearing up the West Bank and making any contiguous Palestinian land impossible. And then there are these sort of wildcat, lunatic settlers. These are just like religiously crazed individuals, often recruited from, I'm sorry to say this, but like from mental hospitals, very damaged young people who are sicked on ordinary Palestinian people. They have no morals, they have no media savvy, they allow themselves to be videotaped, terrorizing ordinary Palestinians, beating dogs to death, just really horrific stuff. And these sanctions target the latter. They don't target the more systematic government-backed efforts at colonization. So although it's a start, it doesn't really address the heart of the matter, which is an Israeli government that seems determined to, at an accelerated clip, gobble up any Palestinian land that could be later on used as the basis for a Palestinian state.
Step-by-step dismantling of Hamas, Netanyahu says, but to me it seems like step-by-step expansion of Greater Israel or Israel as well. What's your take?
Well, I'm not sure if this is, at this point, part of that theoretical Greater Israel project. Most definitely what is happening here is that Israel is making increasingly provocative moves in Gaza and Lebanon as a way of provoking the Iranians to prevent and to sabotage, basically, any prospect for peace negotiations. This is a flagrant violation of peace deal, and it's a signal to the Iranians that no, the U.S. can't control us. That includes also the Lebanon moves, the targeted killings, the destruction of apartment blocks, the targeting of Beirut today. These are all meant as signaling exercises to the Iranians to say that, look, no matter what happens, no matter what deal you cut, it's going to be sabotaged by us, that the Americans have no control over us. We do what we want and we get away with it. And so I think that that is more linked to that, because it doesn't really make sense to put more and more pressure on the Gazans. They're already basically just below starvation levels of food. There's very little medical attention and relief aid getting in, also in violation of the U.S. brokered peace deal. And there's very little sign of Hamas resistance. I'm not sure what they're referring to in terms of Hamas resistance. There hasn't been an Israeli soldier hurt or injured or killed in Gaza in weeks and weeks and weeks, maybe even months. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, however, the Hezbollah is really targeting the Israelis, and this is maybe compensation for that. There seems to be a pattern of Israel when it's under pressure on one front, it applies pressure on another front where it can get away with exacting more revenge and creating more chaos and violence. So, as I promised, here's that interview I did with an expert about Turkey and what has recently happened with the toppling of the opposition party by the president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and what that says about the state of Turkey and its democracy.
Just in 1 year after the presidential elections, then came the local elections, and CHP did something amazing. Like, it did not only win in the cities that it has long been successful, but also taken some of the cities that has never voted for CHP. It was a huge success, and people were amazed and hopeful because it looked like, okay, that was the missing puzzle. Now Kılıçdaroğlu is gone with a good leadership, with someone not only good in heart but also like talented in the brain and mouth. Now CHP can win because there is İmamoğlu as the mayor, and he is going to be a really strong candidate for the presidency. And there is Özgür Özel, who is really a good team leader.
So everyone else in the world, they're focusing on what's happening in Iran. There's a lot of focus and attention on what's happening in the war between Russia and Ukraine. And amidst all of this noise, something rather extraordinary happened in recent days in Turkey. The judiciary, the courts, I can't overemphasize how ridiculous it was in a way. The judiciary plucked out the rather charismatic, outspoken, and talented leader of the opposition party and cleared the way for his dull, drab failure of a predecessor to take over the party. It's as if you're an American, the Supreme Court decided, after the Democrats removed Chuck Schumer and put someone like John Ossoff or Chris Van Hollen in his place, they said, no, you have to have Chuck Schumer because that's the opponent that the government wants. I'm Borzu Deragahi. This is my newsletter podcast. It's called Badlands. You can subscribe at borzu.substack.com. And I am also on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. I'm joined today with a guest, and I apologize for this because I don't want to butcher the name, and I'm going to have to put my glasses on to read this. His name is Orhan Şener Deli Ormanli. He is a political commentator and analyst specializing in youth movements and electronic activism, internet activism, and political activism in Turkey. He is a graduate of several universities. He is studying for his PhD at the very well-known and very respected Galatasaray University in Istanbul. Thank you so much, Orhan Bey. How are you doing?
Thanks a lot. It's really nice to be here. Happy Bayram to you.
Yeah.
Not the best day of my life, but we are trying to struggle, let's say. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a hard week, and it is the Eid al-Adha, or the Qurban Bayram in the Muslim world right now, and it's kind of a chill time, but it's a really sad time as well because of what has happened to Turkey's democracy. So I guess if you could, just for people who are not so familiar with what is happening here, what happened exactly, and where? Let's just start with that. If you could just summarize for everyone what happened.
So, Barzo, your analogy was really nice, but let me elaborate on this. It's as if after the Democratic Party decided that Joe Biden was not going to be the candidate, let's imagine that the Supreme Court of the United States comes and says, no, he's totally fine. He should continue.
Yeah.
Then all like Democratic voters cannot believe and say like, but he doesn't seem well, that there seems to be a problem. No, they say it's totally fine. Actually, let's put another level on this. Let's say that, okay, today, it happens today, not back then, okay? And let's say Democratic Party had, I don't know, let's say Memdani. Somehow, in a magical world, Memdani became the, like, not the president, they don't have a president, but
Opposition leader.
he is the opposition leader and wins.
Yeah.
He wins in many districts, right? And he is loved by many. He speaks well. He says all the right things against Trump. And he has this, not only the charisma, but also the know-how about the politics. He is being supported and such. And Biden, for many people, let's say, is a long gone bad dream, a fever thing. People don't like hate him in some like don't hate
It's
him.
tough to hate
Like,
Biden. It's
he
just
was like-
he's pathetic. Yeah.
he's pathetic in a way, right?
Yeah.
Then the Supreme Court comes and says, Memdani, no. You know what? You were not elected correctly to be the leader of the opposition. You know what we are going to do? We are going to take you out, and Mr. Biden, come here.
Yeah.
Biden does not even understand what's going on. He is like, But in our case, Biden has more or less okay mind and brain. Then he
Yeah.
comes and says, of course, it's my right. And those
Yeah.
were corrupt people. I'm going to represent the opposition. And the whole opposition goes bad. People are crazy. People cannot believe their eyes. People cannot believe their ears because this does not make any sense, right? And no one believes the court. No one believes this new leader. Everyone wants the actual leader, not an appointee. Then, by the use of force by the police, the party buildings are taken over. Legally speaking, everything, all the rights are given to the former loser, quote-unquote, pathetic leader. That's the case.
So let's fill in the blanks here. You know, what exactly happened? There was a decision by a court, and what was
Yeah.
exactly that decision? What was the substance of that decision?
The substance, legally speaking, is not existent. But let me try to explain the logic here. Because, legally speaking, all of those are null.
Right.
I mean, there is no legitimacy here. Because in Turkey, unlike the United States, remember what happened in the previous elections, Georgia and such, each state has a different way of approving, confirming who has won, right? So
Right.
the system is really complex in the United States. In Turkey, however, the system is really simple. It's really like one of the best things that we have because we have this high election board, and what it says is ultimate. It cannot be objected, right?
Yeah.
You cannot take it to a court and object it. Why not? Because then how are we going to conduct any elections? anyone who is not happy with the elections can take it to the court, and it will take too much time, and no one will be sure about anything. In Turkey, once the High Election Board confirms an election, it is done, right?
Yeah.
So in 2023, we had this big election. It was said by many that it was going to be the last proper election. And if the opposition loses it, things were going to get really bad. Guess what? We lost it. So
That was the presidential election with
that
Kemal
was the presidential
Kılıçdaroğlu.
election. And
Yeah,
we
that was between, if I may put a note in, a gentleman named Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, who was the opposition leader, and the president, the longtime president, former prime minister, Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
yeah, it's the 25th year of Erdogan, I believe. So I'm 42. So when I was 18, he came to power. And since then, I didn't see any good days. No, not that much, but I mean, it's really,
Yeah.
it has been
Politically.
difficult 25 years. So in 2023, there was this debate among the opposition about who should be the candidate. And many people thought that it should be Mr. Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, who is now jailed.
Yeah.
Most people, and including
I'll ask
you,
about that. I'll ask
Yeah.
about that as well. Let's
Yeah,
put
yeah.
that aside for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, many people wanted the more possible candidate, while Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu and his people around him stated that he should be the candidate for various reasons, whatever. Most people said that he shouldn't be because in the previous 12 elections, he had lost.
And he lost. He was the candidate in 2023. He
Again, and
was
lost,
the
and-
candidate fair and square, and he lost. And he lost big. And there were several major mistakes that he made, especially in the interim period. There was a runoff, which Erdogan seemed to relish. Ooh, a real competition. And in that runoff period, he really made a bunch of moves that many people thought were mistakes. He failed to expand his outreach. He alienated liberals that were going to support him and handed the election to Erdogan, many said.
Then he also lost the party. So after many years, people decided that enough is enough. We told you that you shouldn't have been the candidate, but then you forced for it for your own good and lost again. So enough, with still like respect, right? People
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
okay.
I remember.
I was also thinking like that. I thought that he was a good guy, but not a good politician. And somehow we were like stuck with him. But enough is enough. Thank you, Grandpa. But like, let's take you to bed, right?
Yeah, it should be noted, and I'll maybe put up a picture of him. He's rather elderly, and there's a few other flaws that he has. I did interview him actually once, and he was charming one-on-one. But then I saw him speak publicly, and my Turkish is very weak. But I could tell that he was not a good politician. He's also, and it's controversial, he's a member of the Alevi minority in Turkey, which although is like, quite integrated into Turkish society, it's still somewhat considered a tough sell to get an Alevi into the highest office in the land, because Turkey is overwhelmingly Sunni Muslim.
Yeah, that was one of the arguments. But this was also utilized by him and his people as a counter argument, because whenever you, as someone who opposes this government, as being someone critical, when I say something about Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu back then, that let's say he is not a good author, let's say he is not a good politician, immediately the counterattack would be, you're saying this because of his beliefs, because of his ethnicity, right? So people, because among the opposition, people are really sensitive about this. No one wants to look like a
bigot,
being
yes,
racist or something. It kind of silenced people, right? And let me put it bluntly, like his ethnicity and religion is maybe the only thing that is a positive about him.
Yeah.
The thing that they count like as a minus is actually a positive, because he has a good Alevite base, at least.
If I may interject, I think one thing that he has, and it would have been amazing if he would have just stayed a party elder. He has an eye for talent, You know, we have to say he was the one who plucked out Ekrem İmamoğlu out of obscurity, you know, where he was in Beylikdüzü as a district mayor in a far-flung suburb of Istanbul, and said, no, no, no, this is our guy. This is our guy. So I think he has a good political eye. He's just not a good politician. He's a good backroom guy and a
That,
backroom dealer,
yeah,
you know,
that's what we
he would
used
be
to believe.
valuable.
That's what we used to believe. I also thought that he is really good at selecting those people, but now I'm starting to think that he maybe selected Ekrem İmamoğlu because he was thinking that he was going to lose.
I see.
That's my opinion. Because now the general consensus among the opposition is that we used to think that he is a good guy, but not talented, and he is a bad politician. But now many people believe that his intentions are bad too, because he is now an appointee of the regime to the opposition.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that 99% of the opposition does not want
let's
him.
go through with that. Let's go through that though. After the 2023 debacle, the disaster, İmamoğlu became the party leader. He became sort of the figurehead, leading person in
The
the
figurehead, but not the official leader. The official
Not the
leader
official
was
leader.
was Özgür Özel. He was elected
Özgür
with really
Özel.
good number.
Tell me about Özgür Özel. Özgür Özel, just so we catch everyone up, is the guy who was the party leader and has been removed from his post by the court. Tell me about Özgür Özel. What is he like?
He has long been in CHP, the main opposition party, the Secular Republican Party. He is a pharmacist. He comes from the western side of Turkey, a smaller town. It is nice that, I mean, the things that I like about him and many people, unlike Kılıçdaroğlu, he's not a bureaucrat. He comes from the people, because as being a pharmacist, you are some sort of a science person, but also a salesperson. And he was in the board of the pharmacists and such. In Western regions, he is well known. A good, like he has this ability to speak to people, and he's smart. But we didn't know much about him. I mean, he was among the top team, but he was a supporting guy. Then, after people decided that enough with Kılıçdaroğlu, someone needed to be elected, and it was thought that maybe it shouldn't be Ekrem İmamoğlu because of all the political pressure on him. Let's keep him at the top of
As mayor.
Istanbul as being the mayor. So CHP has this thing with the leader party and the candidate can be different, or at least it was like this for the last 20 years. Then he won the in-party election with really high margins. And the more interesting part is that it was a huge surprise for Kılıçdaroğlu and his people, because they believed that it was impossible to beat him within his party, because the delegates are all people that he has chosen personally. Yeah. His own people threw him away respectfully. No one said anything bad. We are enough is enough and goodbye. It was supposed to be somehow this is an end of a bad era, and from now on we are going to win. Still, people were not that hopeful, but just in 1 year after the presidential elections, then came the local elections, and CHP did something amazing. It won, it did not only win in the cities that it has long been successful, but also taken some of the cities that has never voted for CHP. It was a huge success. And people were amazed and hopeful, because it looked like, okay, that was the missing puzzle. Now Kılıçdaroğlu is gone with a good leadership, with someone not only good in heart, but also talented in the brain and mouth. Now CHP can win, because there is İmamoğlu as the mayor, and he is going to be a really strong candidate for the presidency. And there is Özgür Özel, who is really a good team leader. He was saying that I'm not going to be the candidate for presidency because that had been a huge issue. But he immediately said that I'm not going to be the candidate. Our candidate is Mr. İmamoğlu. I will be the manager of this team, as in football. Things were going fine. But then, a year ago, a judiciary attack against İmamoğlu put him in jail. Now he is suffering in various courts. I mean, I don't want to talk about the many details of the legalities because there is very few legal about it. But
About
basically,
Imamoglu. Yeah.
let me just put it this way. One evening, his diploma from 30 years ago of his university graduation was cancelled, annulled,
Yeah.
right? 30 years. In the morning, he was taken by the police with the allegations of not only corruption, but also there is this one case that he is being condemned. He is being
Didn't they charge him with
for
terrorism
being
as
a
well?
spy, I believe,
Yeah.
foreign
Something very
agent or
serious.
something. So it's like in Russia or in Belarus, in many places, like it's a
Sure.
farce. Everyone knows it, but it's a strong farce in the sense that the regime has put much effort in it. There are many people who have been taken to court, probably forced somehow to like doing bad
Testify
mouth
against him.
against him, testify against him, and such. He is still struggling.
Yeah.
The worst part is that, at least for the last year, Mr. Özgür Özel still kept his relation with İmamoğlu and said that we are with him, the party is with him, the opposition is with him. It took a year, and meanwhile, the regime did something interesting that they started to push for like those special buttons in front of the judiciary, and they took it to the to court about the in-party election,
Huh.
basically
What?
stating that Mr.
So,
Özgür Özel did not win fair
fair and square.
fair and square, but some say that he paid money or various things. And it took a year, and a law court, a really law court, stated that yes, that is true. So we are going to take everything back. It's called en mutlak butlan, which is a new term for many Turkish people as well, because it's a old Arabic word which is only used in specific legal cases. It means that absolute annulation or
Annulment. Yeah.
annulment, that everything that had happened in regards to elections about CHP are annulled. So it's not Mr. Özel but Kılıçdaroğlu who should be the leader, and all the authorities taken back from the legitimate owners of the leadership in the party and given back to the one person whom is regarded as not only a bad politician nowadays but also a bad person, Kılıçdaroğlu. So
But one thing I don't understand,
by someone who is not wanted by anyone.
Orhan Bey, what I don't understand is what business of a court to get involved. I'm sure there was some trading and dealing and any internal political organization. There's this kind of back and forth and, okay, look, if you give me, I'm sure he reached out to delegates, as you pointed out, and said, look, if you vote for me, I'll give you this. This is the kind of horse trading that goes on in any political party anywhere in the world. Why is that? Why is that the court's business? I don't understand how the court has jurisdiction over the internal machinations of a political party unless there's like violence or death threats or something like that.
Legally speaking, they don't have any authority because the law that they're citing is about associations, not political parties. Political parties, their elections are approved by the High Election Board. So this is obvious. I mean, that's the legal weirdness here. Not weirdness, but like it's an abomination actually, because like there is no legal basis for it. It is very clear that the High Election Board decides what had happened and they approve it, and normal courts have no say in it. But
and
somehow,
they approved it already. They approved that election already.
It's fair and square because in our current situation, you know, what the next step of the logic goes. We can say that, for example, any election, for example, 2020, 2016 presidential election, 2018 referendum, whatever, we can take it to a court now. That's the logical conclusion, which shouldn't happen, but it is the conclusion.
So I saw in the news that Özgür Özel is not taking this lying down.
No.
He was out speaking at rallies in Ankara. There was also this extraordinary footage that made the waves worldwide of riot police storming into the CHP, the People's Republican Party headquarters in Ankara, storming in to remove the party officials and install Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu's people as the people in charge of the party. What are Özgür Özel's options right now?
They're difficult. It is tough, but he has one strength, the strength of the people. The opposition is fed up with this. The opposing people used to think this. First, like 10, 20 years ago, they believed that, I also believe it, demographically speaking, it is not easy for a secular Republican Democratic party or a candidate to win in Turkey due to demographic factors, like right-wing conservative people
Sure.
voting for Erdogan and such. Then, like İmamoğlu, Özel, some people like showed that that's not the case, but the opposition can win by saying the right things with the right candidates. And it won after many years, right? Not only in 2019 as being the mayor, because
Right.
Istanbul municipality used to belong to Erdogan and then his party.
Sure.
That was strike one. Then in the local elections, strike two, and it was going to be the presidential election. And all the surveys were also, like polls were showing that as well. Because economy is really bad for the last 8-10 years. Many people are fed up with Erdogan and the new regime. Even people within his party are somewhat hesitant to support him continuously because the party no more, but it has become some sort of a family business,
Yeah.
not a party and a democracy. So we used to.
I mean, hasn't the demography kind of swung in the direction away from that direction as well? I mean, hasn't Turkey changed in the last 20 years as well in a way that favors the CHP and its values?
Youngsters, I know many people anecdotally, and data also shows that the children of Erdogan's first, like early supporters, their children, some of them are at least not as enthusiastic as their parents because they are not that conservative. They are young. Erdogan is an old leader, comes from the Cold War era, and like he does not have much links to ordinary people and such. So yeah, demographically speaking, this is my belief, but like it can be supported by data. If Ekrem İmamoğlu is out today and can go to the election, he will take something like 60%, I believe. Not difficultly. So
yeah, I
that
mean,
is the
why
issue.
else go through the international condemnations and the falling stock market prices, the falling currency exchange rates? Why else would Erdogan and his allies subject themselves to such punishment economically, politically, internationally, unless you fear that you're going to lose?
Yeah, that is true. But let me put this. So this is something that everyone, especially in the West, can learn. So when you are saying that, why are they taking those risks? What are the risks? Economy is going bad, right? And there will be international condemnations. Okay. Normally, a politician is expected to care about those things, right?
Yeah.
Why would Mr. Erdogan care about those things? If this is not a democracy, if people are not going to vote properly, if he's going to choose his own opposition, and if the regime controls almost everything, then these are not big troubles, right? He has his 30-35% base. Doesn't matter what happens, they are going to support him. And despite the fact that the economy is bad, there is not only one economy. Like, it is a biased economy. Inflation, for example, he is weaponizing inflation. It is not like we have an economic crisis and the government cannot solve it. It is actually the current environment is being established by the regime. What the regime does is using the taxes against the mostly urban, Republican, Democratic, secular voters. While his mostly rural, conservative people,
they don't pay taxes. They get benefits.
They are being protected from it because they don't pay that many taxes. And the taxing regime, for example, like if you're consuming Like if you're drinking liquor or like I don't know, going out for a dinner or a cinema
Or
for the
you work at
cultural
a
activities.
bank or insurance company or medical office, you get
Yeah,
taxed.
if your tax is directly cut by the government, then you're
Yeah.
totally gone. 35%.
If you own a store or drive a taxi, you don't pay tax.
I mean, you are expected to somehow, but like there are many ways
Yeah.
that you don't. So the economy is somehow like biased in this
Mm.
sense. And also, he knows that international condemnation, he doesn't like those, but not a big deal. As long as Donald Trump and his regime supports him, and
Yeah, it's
the
true.
European Union cannot say much because of the refugee deal and many security arrangements within this new realpolitik world, in which not the norms and international values but only power seems to be the dictating force. It doesn't matter much for him.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Like how there was this. It was extraordinary, actually, and I actually did a podcast about this. What a dupe! What an idiot! What a sucker Donald Trump is to take this phone call from Recep Tayyip Erdogan, in which they talked about who knows what, and then the very next day is when the court made this decision. I'm sure he didn't ask Donald Trump, is it okay if I arrest the leader of the opposition? But it did sure look like that to a lot of people, that he basically got the stamp of approval from the United States.
Yeah. So we can't know what they have talked, but even the way that they talk. Normally, it used to be like this. You have a leader, they have a leader, then they talk, and there are people present in the room taking notes, right? This is the legitimate way of conducting business internationally. Neither Erdogan or Donald Trump like this attitude. For them, it's all a bargain, some like making the deal or something, and it's always one to one, personal. So
And
no
this goes
institution.
back. This goes back so many years. I want to note, that there is a Trump Tower in Istanbul,
Yeah,
and Donald Trump himself, along with his daughter and members of Erdogan's entourage, the Erdogan couldn't make it that day, unfortunately. He expressed his regrets, wasn't able to make it as prime minister to that event. But this relationship goes way back to the establishment of the Trump Tower, Istanbul.
yeah. I believe that the many people believe this actually. Populist right wing or authoritarian, or as Zizek calls it, the soft fascism. Those regimes, they learn from each other, and Turkey, as being as one of the early ones, probably
Hmm.
within Trump circles, especially Steve Bannon, probably they have like observed the regime in Turkey and learned a lot, because the way that he uses his family, his son and son-in-law, those are
Hmm.
the like the ways of Erdogan,
Yeah.
son and son-in-laws, doing everything within the family, trusting only the family, and making deals, and those deals, you are not sure whether they are deals for the United States or the people or Donald Trump. In most cases, they are good for himself. For example, people say that, but the United States, the like conjuncture and the advantage is not for the United States no more. It's about Donald Trump and
Yeah.
his family and his cronies. So similar stuff can be said about Turkey and some other countries as well. So we need to like understand that the paradigm has changed, shifted in the way that even if you're talking about realpolitik, you shouldn't be thinking only about the pros and cons for the country.
Right.
Country. It should be the family or the ruling elite or the presidium, whatever you call it, and because their their interests and the people's interests do not well aligned in most cases. Actually, they are contradictory. That is the thing that we are experiencing. Donald Trump and the president in Turkey, they make a deal. We don't know about what. It might even be something like only a blessing. I don't also think that
Yeah.
like they were talking specifics. Mostly he just got some blessings and offered some, I don't know, support in Middle East. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
there are many things to
Yeah.
that.
I'm sure. I'm almost certain Erdogan is not dumb enough to bring that up
No,
in a
no, no.
conversation.
Definitely not.
He wouldn't say
Even if
that
he
to him, but
wrote,
it gives that appearance.
Donald Trump
Spe-
wouldn't know the names. So for him, like it's just a mixture of a soap or something. Sometimes
yeah.
like he says something about Kurds or otherwise, you are like, maybe he heard it from somewhere. I don't
Yeah,
know. Like he doesn't care much. For him, like
yeah,
I mean, like for him, the world is just a playboard that he can just like. It's not even chess. It's like checkers or
yeah.
something for him. Yeah.
Yeah, you brought up the dictators watching each other and learning from each other. How big of a jolt was Viktor Orban's loss in Hungary to Erdogan? Those guys are friends. They are, in some ways, even business partners. In some respects, Wizz Air was among the first foreign. Wizz Air was among the first foreign discount airlines to be allowed to fly into Istanbul airport as part of an arrangement that awarded the Hungarian airline for its friendship with Erdogan. Do you think that that might have given him a jolt, the victory of Peter Magyar in Hungary?
I'm not very familiar about Hungarian politics, but they had good relations and probably they have learned a lot from each other. Uh, Many people were saying that we should look at the case of Hungary and Poland and many others so that we can learn from them and what to do in the Turkish case. I agree with this, but it's not enough because the case in Turkey is a bit more extreme. What we are
Hmm.
experiencing here is a continuation in one way because the trajectory is straightforward.
Hmm.
So for the last 25 years. But just because like it is going in a trajectory does not mean that we shouldn't be surprised because this is something that had never happened before. Normally, Turkey used to be a republic with proper like equal citizens, with the rule of law, and with somewhat like more or less democracy. Democracy was the thing that we were lacking. Then it was gone, but now republic no more. This is a
Yeah.
sultanic regime, an authoritarian regime in which rule of law sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So there are laws, sometimes they can be applied, and there are different kind of laws because the presidential institutions and the constitutional institutions conflict with each other, and continuously every day we are seeing that they're trying to change that constitution as well. I mean, they have changed it for like 10 times or something in the last 20 years, but still they are trying to change it. It's just a farce. What the regime actually wants is the non-existence of a constitution. They want it to be just like uh, God saw that it was good and it happened, right? So you say it and it happens. This is the
Yeah.
regime that we are living in. The university that I was graduated from, Bilgi University.
Biggie, evet.
Yeah,
Yes.
Bilgi. So 5 days ago, we have this website on which presidential decrees are put. Like on paint or something, they draw a flag and like just two lines, two lines. Bilgi University, something like citing a number, no more, right? University was shut down immediately, instantaneously, without giving any proper reason. There was this thing about its owner and such, but like the next morning, students could not enter the university, and now that they are taking their finals, like last 3 weeks of the university, the whole university got like they were shocked because I mean, okay, the owner might change, or like sometimes police enters universities for to force something, but like the university no more, just by two lines after 30 years. This is a university 30
Very
years.
prestigious, by
It's
the
like,
way.
yeah, prestigious. And Erdogan was like, he gave a speech there in the opening and such,
Huh.
whatever. No more. Then 2 days later, another presidential decree stating that no, it's fine. Bill University can continue.
What do you think happened there? I saw that U-turn, and that was actually going to be one of the main topics of the discussion, this closing of the university. But then it was crazy. Like, the university was closed. The students were ordered to rematriculate at Mimar Sinan University and to associate themselves with a public university. And I think a lot of kids were in panic. Their parents were panicking. And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, they're like, never mind.
That there was this statistics like more than half of the presidential decrees were about changing the previous decrees. So this is what they do. You know, in Silicon Valley, they say move fast, break things early, always iterate, deliver and deliver. This is the way they run Turkey. You like a presidential decree comes. If people don't like it or there are some problems, they observe the externalities. Two days later, no, we are not.
What
Going.
do you think happened? What do you think happened there? It just proved
Some
incredibly
people believe
unpopular.
that student protest, but I don't think so. Most probably because it's a big university, it's a prestigious university. Probably, most probably, Mr. Erdogan, his family has people around him whose sons and daughters are studying there. Most probably they took it to him and said like, "But president, what is going on?" Because like he doesn't deal with those kind of minor issues. It was in an automatic way. They were trying to, I don't know, like the real estate of the university is really good. I don't know. Many things could have happened.
Maybe it was a matter of bribes. I'm sorry to say this, but in Istanbul,
I'm not saying those. You are saying that.
Yeah,
I
no,
live
but
in
I'm just
Turkey
saying.
as a
I'm not
Turkish
saying that
citizen.
it was this or it wasn't that. But in Istanbul, under both AKP and CHP governments, there's been a lot of corruption having to do with choice real estate and variances for real estate and shakedowns for variances and so on. So I mean, old-fashioned big city politics and political graft is prevalent throughout Turkey and Istanbul, especially with its very lively and active real estate market.
Many things have been said actually. I mean, there have been those rumors about contraband with Iran, about gold embargo, many things. Rumors. I don't know any of them. That is the issue. We don't know anything, and they know many things. The informational asymmetry here is against the public, and they are using it very effectively, unfortunately.
What and I also wanted to ask about the role of the EU, the European Union they have not been very honorable in this particular case. There have been some political activists and political leaders in the EU who have condemned what has happened here with the CHP, with the dismantling of this opposition party, especially since this particular opposition party has a sort of association with the Social Democrats of Europe. It's part of that a broad coalition of parties, even though it's not part of the European Union. It is affiliated. It joins in conferences of the Social Democrats in Germany and the Socialist Party in France and so on. It has an association. This is not like some obscure political organization they have nothing to do with. And yet they didn't do much, did they? And as a matter of action, they didn't take any steps. In fact, they continued to praise Turkey and its participation. This Ursula von der Leyen, especially this rather odious neoliberal pseudo-technocrat, has been particularly just awful about giving Erdogan the diplomatic cover he needs. What do you see and what have you heard?
It's really, I mean, one of the most disturbing things within this political environment is the attitude of European Union and the West in general, but European Union specifically, because European Union is not a military organization. It's trade and norms, right? Trade and norms. Trade, fine. But norms, what are those norms? Who is the leader of the free world? Is there a free world anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, United States, bygone. European Union, okay, better. But when it comes to Turkey, for example, the thing that they did, Merkel came, they talked, they had this refugee agreement that Turkey is being unfortunately used as a massive refugee camp for the whole Europe. It says that they can enter to Turkey, but they can't pass through. So this is like a buffer zone in a way. Because Erdogan is doing this for them, they're not like taking any measures to prevent him from doing anything. And I'm not even sure that if they have the necessary tools, but they are not even using the normative tools that they have. Like of course there are some. There is Mr. Sanchez, for example, the representative of EU. Sometimes he condemns. The EU always condemns things. And there is Spain to some extent. But for example, not only EU, but also in UK, the Labour leader, he is a disaster. He has this great relation
with Erdogan.
regime, unfortunately. And there are many others who are not showing love towards him, but they believe that he's a good business partner. People like EU and other leaders and such, no one cares about the people of Turkey or international values or norms, as long as Turkey is doing good with its job about like preventing refugees to enter Europe, and also like provide some sort of a security with its military to the West. It's fine for them.
Yeah.
What I see.
In terms of where Turkey is headed now, is the country headed more towards a version of Putin's autocracy? Is that where we're going? Is that a reasonable thing to say? Is it already there? Is it already at that point, that extreme of having basically just a token opposition, no freedom of speech, people getting abducted in the mornings, and we already had. Let's go through this list now, because it began with Selahattin Demirtas, who was a very talented politician who was locked up, and then it was Ekrem İmamoğlu, and now we have Özgür Özel. So there's this sort of progression of talented politicians and political leaders being eliminated from the opposition. What do you see? Do you see, is it becoming like a Putin-esque republic?
To some extent, but there are some differences. First of all, in regards to the trajectory, we are going there, but we are not there yet. Putin's regime is like much harsher, I would say, because I mean they're killing people. They're the regime in Turkey. I mean, okay, harsh, but like I need to be fair here. It's not that bad yet.
Yeah.
But I mean,
3-star prisons is the fate. If you like,
yeah. I mean,
is your fate, is the worst thing that can happen to you. Maybe you get beat up a little bit during the arrest, but
there was this journalist from Hungary in an IPR symposium, I believe. He said that many people start talk about like oppression in their own countries, like journalists being killed and in jail. He said that in Hungary, journalists are not being killed. And that is the only thing good that I can say about Hungary, he said. So similarly, in Turkey, most people are not killed yet. So, I mean, there is a difference.
Yeah.
But the bigger difference here is that the potential. In, for example, Russia, they never had a transition of power by elections. They had elections, they had transition of power, but they never coincide. So they have long been an authoritarian or totalitarian regime. Tsars, then the communist regime, then Yeltsin and Putin. In Turkey, we have this 150-year-old of elections. The last 100 years, republic, the last 75 years, democracy with like proper parties and such. Erdogan came with proper elections and he had his legitimacy from elections. That is one thing. People really love elections in Turkey and they're really important. And also, the opposition in Turkey, if they are left alone, if they're not put into jail and such, most probably the opposition have the capacity to win now. That is the biggest difference. So demographics, polls, and the political culture and tradition and the political DNA, let's say, of Turkey is different in this sense. So potentially, Turkey is still in a much better shape than Russia or Belarus and such. But the de facto state is really harsh now because like people are in jail, opposition leaders face the threat of being put in jail, and most importantly, the main opposition party, 100 years old, the party that Atatürk himself founded, is now run by an appointee and Manchurian candidate of the regime. That is the biggest issue.
Does Özgür Özel have any recourse? I heard someone say that they can go to the Court of Cassation to challenge this decision to remove him. Is that a possibility?
They took it. They took the case, but it was rejected. So from courts, I don't believe there is any, because like the existing resolution is not legitimate or legal. So because it's not legal, what are you going to do? I mean, normally, if we are speaking legally, this shouldn't have happened. I don't know what can be done legally. But as far as I understand, I'm not a party affiliated person, but like I have many people that I know. As far as I understand, what they're now trying to do is twofold, three actually. One, they are like keeping alternative parties aside. So once need be, they are going to use those parties as a proxy to get into the elections with a proper candidate. But also they're still resisting within the party, telling openly Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu to take this new leadership to an in-party election, because despite him being an appointee, his appointee status is actually not a permanent but a contemporary one, that normally he needs to take the party to an in-party election within a month. But of course, he's not going to do it. But still, what Özel is trying to do is to show everyone, not only the proper opposition, but also some radical, marginal supporters of Kılıçdaroğlu, that what he's doing is not proper and he is actually some sort of a puppet, and also trying to show the world what's going on in Turkey. So he's trying to like give good photo ops, create some like conversation around him, and also motivate the people by using resistance within the party. And it has also been a good opportunity to clean the party, because now we see that there are many people who do not share the same values as the people who are supporting the party. Some are already ready to support the regime and such. So maybe he's also seeing this as an opportunity, but it's not easy, because even if he like takes his whole team to a new party, then still it can also be closed, or he can be put into jail. These are not easy solutions, but the conundrum here is that even within the coalition of the regime, people are not happy. For example, the leader of the Nationalist Party, Devlet Bahçeli, like the biggest ally of Erdogan, is not happy with this, because what had happened is also harming the status quo between the palace family, I mean Erdogan's family, the palace, the regime, and other coalition members of
Groups.
the parties and such. So if he can do this to CHP, the strongest,
He can do this.
the oldest party in Turkey, it can be done to anyone. So no rule of law is not good also for the for AKP or the Nationalist Party, for no one besides Erdogan and his people around.
Orhan Bey, thank you so much. It's Orhan Deli Ormanli. He is a scholar. He's been nice enough to give us his time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so much for listening or watching. Again, I'm Borzu Dergahi. I am a journalist and foreign correspondent. You can find me on YouTube as well as Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. Again, thanks so much.